I wanted to come here today before the beginning of the legislative session this week on the Millionaire Amendment that I've been working on really since I was governor in 2014. I proposed a constitutional amendment then, and it had 70 votes in the House, a Millionaire Amendment to help fund schools in Illinois. We needed 71 to put it on the ballot, and because we didn't have 71, we decided to put it on as an advisory referendum in 2014. And in that election, that referendum got over 60% of the voters favoring the question. I've listed it here for everybody to look at. That was in 2014. Should the Illinois Constitution be amended to include a 3% surcharge only on millionaires in order to help school funding? Well, the voters voted for it. It was put into the legislature several times afterwards, but ultimately it was decided in 2024 to take another side of the coin of the question, reducing property taxes, because about 2/3 of everybody's property tax bill goes to schools. So if we want to reduce property taxes, we need to have a millionaire surcharge in order to do that. And it was put on the 2024 ballot, got again over 60% of the vote from the people of Illinois who voted yes in favor of reducing property taxes by means of a millionaire surcharge. Well, since then, 2 constitutional amendments have been submitted for a millionaire amendment in Illinois. One is called House Joint Resolution Constitutional Amendment 21, sponsored by Representative Natalie Manley, that would have a millionaire amendment, a surcharge only on millionaires, 3%, in order to provide half the money would go to schools, the other half would go to property tax relief. And then since then, a measure has been put on as well by the legislature, by a member of the legislature, LaShawn Ford, who proposed exactly what the question in 2024 was on the ballot. Shall there be a millionaire surcharge of 3%, and that money be used for property tax relief? And that's House Joint Resolution Constitutional Amendment 26. Well, this is the time. The legislature this week and next week only has that amount of time before the May 3rd deadline under our Constitution for any constitutional amendments to be put on the ballot. So it's very important this week that the legislature and the House and Senate take up the issue of a millionaire amendment. A number of states have passed millionaire amendments, including recently Massachusetts, just a week or two ago, Maine, California, District of Columbia, State of Washington. It's really the issue in this year of accountability and making sure we have affordability in our country and definitely here in our state. So it's important for the legislature to address this issue, especially because the voters twice have sent through statewide advisory referendums their call to have this issue addressed by the General Assembly. It's very important to do that because if you look back in history, I was around in 1997, and Jim Edgar, our governor at the time, I had served as state treasurer with Governor Edgar. He proposed a measure to use income tax revenue to reduce property taxes and to support schools. That was his charter proposal in 1997, and it went to the Illinois House. They had a roll call vote on it, and it passed. And the person who was the last legislator in the House to speak on the issue was a state representative who just passed away, a wonderful woman by the name of Barbara Flynn Curry. She spoke on behalf of this Jim Edgar proposal to use the income tax in order to help get property tax relief and help education, and she said at the end of her speech, it's important that the hundreds of thousands of youngsters in Illinois have an investment in their future. That bill passed the Illinois House. It went to the Illinois Senate, and the Senate president at that time, James Pate Phillip, refused to call the bill and let the members of the Senate vote on the Edgar Curry proposal. It never got a roll call vote. And I think that's history that we should never forget, that it's important for the legislature, when the people speak on an important issue like the Millionaire Amendment, to take a vote on that issue. And this week is the time to do it for the House and then for the Senate. He have listed the number of returns in Illinois that have over $1 million a year in income, over 77,000 people. That's about 1% of all the Illinois taxpayers, income taxpayers. There's 6.2 million income taxpayers. We just had to pay our income tax last week. Millions and millions of people pay income tax, but only a small fraction, 1% or so, have the blessed luck to have over $1 million in income to declare. Well, those folks were happy about that, but having a 3% surcharge only on their income is a way to raise, according to the Illinois Department of Revenue, $4.5 billion, which is a significant amount of money that could be used to help schools and to help property tax relief. Exactly what the voters are calling for. Now, I think it is important that we realize that Illinois has passed laws in the past. Matter of fact, the legislature and the governor, the governor signed the bill. This is back in 2019. It took effect, I think, in fiscal year 2021. It's called the Illinois Property Tax Relief Fund. This has been passed by this General Assembly recently, and then signed by Governor Pritzker, calling for an annual property tax rebate to the people of Illinois who declare the homestead exemption. That's the residential property tax exemption that is given, homestead exemption to people who are owner-occupiers of their real estate. Well, that's over 3 million households in Illinois. You know, if we're concerned about affordability, and we just heard recently the governor has a housing plan, and I think it's a good plan to make sure we build more housing in Illinois and get people the opportunity to be homeowners. But in order to be a good homeowner, you've got to pay the property tax, and if it's too high, it makes it very difficult for people to buy a home or to stay in their home. They're getting clobbered by Illinois' property taxes that are the highest in the country, higher than any other state. So we have to do something about this. I, once upon a time, served as the elected Commissioner of Property Tax Relief and Appeals in Cook County. I heard 150,000 appeals from everyday people and businesses that are being unfairly treated by Illinois' upside-down tax system that relies way too much on property taxes in order to fund schools and other important things. Well, the Millionaire Amendment is a way to relieve the burden on people who live from paycheck to paycheck. And I heard just on the way coming down about polling that's been done, I guess, recently that might discourage some of our members of the legislature from even taking a vote on a Millionaire Amendment that the people have called for. Well, 2 years ago, I did a poll. It was in March of 2024. I think the results are still very useful. It asked whether or not the people of Illinois would, this is a poll, a published poll, not some unpublished poll, but it's a poll that says if we had an income tax increase surcharge only on millionaires, 3%, would that be used, would you support that in order to get property tax relief and help schools? Well, 72% of the people of Illinois said yes, they supported a Millionaire Amendment that would help our schools and also reduce property taxes. on residential property. That was Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. It was all age groups. I have a copy of the poll, and I'll show it to you in a minute, but it seems to me that we've had two statewide referendums. The purpose of these statewide referendums, when people vote for candidates to express their opinion on an important issue, twice people have come out in favor of a Millionaire Amendment. A recent poll that I've done shows that there's widespread public support. What's holding back our legislature from addressing this issue this week? And matter of fact, you know, I live on the west side of Chicago, and I live in the 7th Congressional District. One of the sponsors of a Millionaire Amendment is Representative LaShawn Ford, who just won the nomination, the Democratic nomination for Congress from the 7th Congressional District, my district. He's a sponsor of a Millionaire Amendment. I think he knows firsthand. He won in a very crowded field, but he won going away because he was on top of an issue that really matters to people, the Millionaire Amendment for property tax relief and education. And matter of fact, in the same election, I received a direct mail piece from our Speaker of the House, good friend, Speaker Chris Welch, and it said right here to me and to my kids, Welch will help working families by fighting to tax millionaires with a surcharge, making sure that they pay their fair share. That was our Speaker of the House, sending mailings out to people in our 7th Congressional District that he's in favor of a millionaire surcharge. As a matter of fact, if you look at the statistics, Illinois millionaires have one of the lightest income tax burdens of any state that has an income tax in the union. And in the same election, I also got a mailing from our Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, Juliana Stratton, who came out in this mailing that I received, my many mailings that all of us received during this past election. A middle-class tax cut. Juliana will give middle-class families a tax cut by raising taxes on those earning over $1 million. This was just an election a month or so ago. Our Speaker of the House, our Lieutenant Governor, who's now the nominee for U.S. Senate, it's important for these elected officials to help us get a roll call vote and pass the Millionaire Amendment that has been submitted by legislators in the House and hopefully in the Senate. As a matter of fact, the Democratic State Central Committee tonight, 6 o'clock, is having a meeting of the members who were elected on March 17th. And I talked to the chairperson of the Democratic State Central Committee in Illinois, that's Lisa Hernandez. I talked to her last night. I said, Lisa, all over the country, the issue of the Millionaire Amendment is being put on the ballot and being debated. We can do this in Illinois, and I think it's important for our Democratic Party, matter of fact, Chris Welch is a member of the State Central Committee, to come out in favor of a Millionaire Amendment and putting it on the ballot for the people to vote on this election. That really is what's going on here. We want to give people a chance to vote on this issue. I think the people of our state in the last election made it clear that when the people and voters tell the legislators and the governor and all the other elected officials that they want a chance to vote on a Millionaire Amendment, they should not be told by the people in power, oh no, that can't be done. We're not going to listen to you, the people, the voters, the taxpayers. We're just going to continue doing the same old thing. Illinois has an unfair tax code, one of the worst in the whole country. It's an upside-down tax code that gives tax breaks to millionaires and higher property tax bills to everyday people who are trying to stay in their home or get a home. So I think it's super important that this issue not be missed this year, this week or this year by our legislators, both parties. I think the people want the opportunity to vote on the Millionaire Amendment, and that's why I'm here today. Glad to answer any questions.
One of the things I've heard from a few lawmakers is there's disagreement how do you, I guess, convince them to get on the same page here over the next 3 days?
I think the two statewide referendums that involved literally millions of voters should be the best way to decide what to put on the ballot for the people to vote on. Clearly, helping property tax payers is very important, and property tax relief, as expressed in 2024 in that referendum, has to be part of a constitutional amendment. One of the amendments that has been proposed is to give half the money to property tax relief and the other half of the money to invest in education. I think there need to be guardrails to make sure that when school districts get money from the Millionaire Amendment, that they abate their property tax levy and lower their property tax levy. And I think that's really the best way to go. There's many people may have different ideas, but a Millionaire Amendment has been voted on twice by the people of Illinois. I signed the law to put it on the first time. It was my idea, to be honest, and I wanted to make sure people had that chance to vote on reforming the Illinois tax code to give relief to the people who need it the most, and to also help the most important thing our state does. That's educating the next generation. And if you read the Illinois Constitution, the education article, it says that the state of Illinois has the primary responsibility for funding education. And I thought that back in 2014, when I signed that bill for a referendum, that this is a way of Illinois living up to that constitutional mandate. Clearly, according to the evidence-based funding law that was passed some time ago, Illinois is coming up short. Doesn't have enough money to properly fund our schools. So going 50-50, half for property tax relief, half for investing in schools in order to get more property tax relief for people, I think is the best prescription for those who are in doubt about what to put on the ballot for the people to vote on.
I also hear a little bit of, I don't know if fear is the right word, but not a lot of energy and excitement about doing it again after the way the graduated income tax went in 2020. Obviously, these are two different questions. This one is more specific, but for lawmakers who, especially Democrats, who are very focused on winning more seats this year, having a good performance compared to the Republican Party of Donald Trump, would this potentially, I don't know, make it harder, I guess, having another outside voice, another question on the ballot that is going to divide voters?
I don't think it's going to divide voters. I think 2/3 of the voters, or maybe more, 70%, are going to be in favor of reducing property taxes and investing more in education. I think that's a very good way to win an election. If people are worried about their future in politics, take a stand. Matter of fact, I was lucky enough on Palm Sunday to go to church with a former president of the United States, a fellow by the name of Martin Sheen. He was in town. He called me up. He said, "You want to go to church and have breakfast?" So I took him up on it. We went to church and then had breakfast. And one of Martin Sheen's favorite sayings, he talks about St. Peter. And, when you go up there, you want to get into heaven, hopefully. St. Peter's right there at the door. And he asks all the people seeking admission, "Show me your scars." And one fella came up and said, "Gee, I don't have any scars." And St. Peter said, "'Tis a pity. You've been on earth all this time, and isn't there anything worth fighting for?" And that's really what this issue is. To me, it is, the Millionaire Amendment. It's worth fighting for. And for candidates before an election, like on March 17th, to be telling voters in my district where I live, and everywhere else, I think, that they're for a Millionaire Amendment before the election, but then saying it's too hard to do and we got to wait for some other time. That's just not acceptable. I think we've got to take charge here as voters and demand better performance from incumbent elected officials. This is a moment in time. All across the country, this is the moment for people to vote for affordability, and the affordability amendment that's best for Illinois is a millionaire amendment for property tax relief and helping our schools. Doing that, I've been in referendum fights, quite a few. Matter of fact, I've passed 2 constitutional amendments, the Cutback Amendment in 1980 and the Recall Amendment in 2010, 30 years later. And I didn't take polls on that. We knew where the people wanted to go, and we built a majority. And I think that's something that our leaders better keep in mind in the next 2 weeks. They've got to be leaders and not just putting their finger up and taking a poll. I think the polls are very good for the Millionaire Amendment, and that's been shown elsewhere in other states. Illinois did not take this opportunity as really missing the boat.
Did you get good reception from Lear Hernandez when you talked to her last night? And have you talked to Speaker Welch, since you did bring up that you received that mailer from him? And he's talked to me about it,
Yeah.
that he wanted to see that before session started in January.
Yeah, no, he's publicly, several times, Speaker Welch has talked about a millionaire amendment, and now's the time. I know that it's very important for the Speaker to gather the members of his caucus and lead them to putting this onto the ballot. I think if I heard today, there was some came out about polling, unnamed polling, wasn't good for the Millionaire Amendment. Well, I think the 2 polls that have been taken on the ballot in Illinois in the past decade show that it is very popular with voters. And my own poll that I did a couple of years ago showed that it's very popular. This combination of property tax relief and investing in schools. I've communicated with Chris Welch via text and other things like that. I spoke directly to Lisa Hernandez, who's a good friend. They all are good friends. But now's the time not to be timid. Don't be timid on something that matters to so many people who are owning their own home maybe, but they can't afford the property taxes. And we've got to make sure that we give relief to those people. I know the governor said, well, one way to do it is to give more money to education, and the state has tried to do that in the last few cycles and fiscal years. But it's insufficient. It's not reducing property taxes the way a millionaire amendment would. And it has worked in Massachusetts in particular, where they had it on the ballot. People voted for it. And it's now taken effect. They have more millionaires now than they had before the vote. And as a matter of fact, they've raised more money with this surcharge only on millionaires to help their causes in Massachusetts. So for Illinois, to not do this year is missing a golden opportunity. And one more thing, if we don't do it this year, the soonest it could be on the ballot is 2.5 years from now, November of 2028. No. That's way too long for people to wait for relief that they're entitled to. So, you have a question or two?
Do you think if if this does pass both the House and the Senate, do you think you can count on the governors to provide a lot of funding like you did during considering the last attempt when it failed?
Well, I have organized statewide campaigns for constitutional amendments twice that have won, going away twice, and we had very little or any campaign money. I know how to organize referendum campaigns. I think the one back in 2020 left something to be desired. It was a sincere effort, don't get me wrong, but I think it had some shortcomings. Number one, the money should be earmarked for something that everyday people understand. Property tax relief and helping school children. That's understandable to people. Back in 2020, they had a cutoff. They didn't indicate that the income tax would only go up on millionaires. People understand a millionaire amendment. And that's how you win referendums. You want to make sure you have something that's clear, that's earmarking the money for an important public purpose, and who's going to actually pay for this surcharge? millionaires, people who are blessed, not everyday people. No one will have their income tax raised if you don't declare $1 million a year. And so I think the lesson learned from 2020 is to go back to the drawing board, not give up, but pick something that's more understandable, a millionaire amendment that earmarks the money for something super important like schools and property tax relief, and then go out and organize. So even if you don't have millions, you can win on a message that's understandable, and I've done that twice.
Looking at the schedule for this week, we do see that Leader Manley's proposal is before a committee, but that's on Thursday. And, you know, we're talking about the timing. The
Right.
House is only in 3 days, Senate's only in 3 days. This session schedule's been awful for both chambers this year, we know that. Is it too little too late right now?
Well, I hope not. I've been talking about this for the last 2 years. I mean, more than 2 years, maybe really going back to 2014. I do think the timetable is super important. That's why I wanted to come down today to our state capitol. I worked here, obviously. I was state treasurer, I was lieutenant governor, I was governor, and I've done referendums. So I think it's important to have somebody speak out in favor of getting a vote on this. And I would urge the Democratic Central Committee tonight to not turn their backs on the Millionaire Amendment, to take a vote and to encourage the members of the legislature this week to take this very seriously. To turn their backs on taxpayers, property taxpayers, would be very disappointing. That's not what the people want. The people have spoken, and it's time for the elected officials to respond. Okay, thanks for coming, you guys. I show you this poll here. I had a friend of mine, I only had one copy in my briefcase, but I can give it to you if you want to look at it. This is done a couple years ago. You may take a picture with your
Yeah.
phone, and there you go. Who are you with?
The Sun Times.
Oh,
Yes.
great.
Hi, my
Oh,
name's
yeah,
Matt.
you're
Nice to meet you.
with Mawa.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
Did Mawa tell you she found a FOIA from the Pope?
She did, actually, yeah, she told me about
That was
that.
a great
Yes.
story. That was so funny.
Yeah,
It
it
caught
was.
me by surprise.
Right?
Yeah, it was something.
Yeah.
You want, Mike, you want to take a
Yes,
picture of it?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got more than